This is the gal that's coming in now, doing it all by herself.
So they got to ride that bike and do their time, look at the speed, do all that and change gears on a almost 80-year-old bike. It's incredible.
She's kicking our butt.
Welcome to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. Welcome to a new episode of Sam's Garage. Today, Sam and Doug make it to Louden, New Hampshire on the Great Race. Then Sam installs the fuel system on the 55 Chevy Bel Air. The SC300 gets an upgraded rear differential, and Wade from Merlin Auto stops by to help Sam get the 454 engine running. Nothing can keep Doug down while he powers through being under the weather as Sam pushes forward on the Great Race.
These guys, Sam and Adrian, are driving a what year vehicle?
1912 Haynes. Haynes was the first car company in the United States.
So this is a brass era vehicle.
Brass era, yeah. 1912.
How many times have you guys done the race?
First time.
First time. Rookies?
Rookies.
And you two are doing what I would like to do, which is go by the seat of their pants. They're not picking the instructions apart. They're just having a good time and doing a really good job with great numbers, really, when you think about it, at the end of the day.
Not bad.
Hey, I'm just glad the car makes it every day. It's crazy.
It's so cool to
Yesterday
see
we
you
got
guys.
fifth in 22, and we got a 1 seconder and a 2 seconder.
That's crazy.
And you didn't mention the other ones.
No, but the fact that you're doing this with, just like you said, the seat of your pants, that's the most fun you can have.
Yeah.
This is all still the old school controls like you just showed me on the steering wheel and how you're driving the car.
So it's a hand throttle, not a foot throttle, which means you've got to be like an octopus on a gear change because you decelerate, change the gear, and you look down and you're not holding the steering wheel.
You got to train your right foot that's a brake and not a gas pedal.
We are in Louden, New Hampshire. This is Joe DuPont's hometown. This is NHOU, Sam's Garage title sponsor, and this is Doug Harris. You all know him. Joe Jr. right there. Thank you guys very much for coming out and greeting us here, and you're welcome in your home racetrack.
Yeah.
And you said NASCAR comes here twice a year.
They were just here last Sunday.
That is so cool. That's a big track because we got everybody here. This is one of the biggest welcomes we've had so far this week. Lots of cars, lots of people, beautiful weather. Doug's doing a good job. He's feeling a little under the weather today, but he hasn't stopped.
I haven't stopped. No, I signed this thing, you know. I mean, we've been from very, very hot to very, very cool to rain to whatever. And I'm old, man, so I'm giving it my best.
Well, you don't have any AC in that vehicle.
Yeah, none.
Listen,
He hasn't called out sick just because he's got a little sniffies.
Yeah.
That's a big thing right there. So what do you guys think about this great race? I think you two need to do it one year.
Well, we can think about that.
Yeah. And you have the Corvette, 1972 Stingray Corvette he's got.
Perfect.
You'd have to go through the motor and make sure it's dependable.
No problem. I'll go through
We'll
the whole
send
thing
it to you
for
as a project.
I'll come up here
Yeah.
and do it in your shop.
How many miles is it?
2,300. Dude, if these old cars can do it, you guys can do it in your Corvette.
And I like the way you're racing. It's really like, you know, it's against yourself.
Yes.
How do these classic cars, some of these antique museum cars
Yes.
race? It's not a traditional race. It's a how to get there on basic written instructions 30 minutes before you leave.
Remember, the winner, the guy that's closest, gets $50,000.
We almost lost this guy today. 2 days ago it was me because I was irresponsible, but today he couldn't help it. He got a chest cold. He puked up his lungs all throughout the
All
route.
day. I figured when I got out of the car, my side was going to be a mess, but you know what? The air flowed really nice, really nice.
It flowed nice. Luckily, we were in Maine. There was no
Maine.
heat, so
Yep.
you didn't feel bad from that. But he didn't skip a beat. He didn't stop annotating and giving me instructions on how to do things. It was wonderful.
We had a couple really good legs. I think the biggest thing we learned today is always prep 2 in front of them. We had a great start, and then we blew right by our turn. So then we had to come back, make it up, go run like a banshee to get where we needed. It worked out all right. We had just a tremendous amount of fun, and the car is running fantastic.
Later on, we're gonna be going out to dinner, getting some lobster. We're in Maine for 3 days. There's 2 more stops. That's gonna be Saturday and Sunday. You guys don't wanna miss it. We'll see you then.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. Sam reaches out to Summit Racing for all the components needed to finish the fuel system on the Chevy Bel Air.
All right, so this is the week that the Bel Air is gonna run. I went to Summit Racing, got my entire fuel system that consists of a tank and an Edelbrock complete fuel system that is a return style fuel system. I got a 255 inline fuel pump, a pre and a post filter, a fuel pressure regulator, hoses and fittings, everything I need to make this Bel Air run today. I got the headers to install, and all I gotta do is hook up power and ground, and hopefully it'll run today. If it doesn't run this week, it'll for sure run next week. So a brand new powertrain justifies a brand new fuel system, especially when it's a 1955. I got the fuel tank in from Summit Racing. So on the fuel tank itself, I just put a brand new 55 carburetor fuel tank in from Summit Racing. So you're gonna have to add the return line for the fuel injection. It's very important that when you're doing it on the back side, you take a hose and take it all the way down to the bottom of the tank, because you don't want to have a possible fire hazard when the fuel just splashes down into the tank from the top. It could be potentially dangerous. So you want it to go down to the bottom and fill at the bottom of the tank right where the feed is. That way the pump is never dry. I went ahead and ran my lines from Edelbrock. I put the fuel pump lower than the fuel tank because you want the gravity to push the fuel towards the pump because it's outside on the frame rail. I've got a fuel filter with regulator after it going up to the Edelbrock EFI. And everywhere you guys put your fuel lines, make sure if there's anything jagged, you put some DEI wrap around it just to protect it. So anywhere where I thought that there's gonna be movement or a jagged edge, I put DEI wrap around it just to give us some extra protection. And we're ready to go downstairs and answer the questions on the Edelbrock, and hopefully this thing should fire up. Okay, so the fuel system has been completed. Make sure, guys, that you put the fuel lines in the area where it's not gonna get frayed, cut, or it's gonna be away from the heat of the exhaust system. That's why I went ahead, put it on the outside of the frame rail on the passenger side. I went ahead and connected the power and ground for the Edelbrock straight to the battery. The pink wire for the Edelbrock is gonna be the positive switch power on. For now, I'm just using an alligator clip until I take it straight to the ignition switch. So you guys want to go to the App Store or the Android Play Store and download the eTuner 4. Very simple. It's going to be Bluetooth. There's no handheld. It's your phone. You go ahead and do the setup wizard, follow the instructions, do it as accurate as possible. Then it's going to give you the start engine icon. You hit that icon, you crank the vehicle, you're going to adjust your timing, and you're going to adjust your idle. After that, you should be good to go. Now, I fired it up, everything runs good. It misfires just a little bit, but that's because everything is new. It's gonna take some time to break in. Sometimes, you guys, depending on how long the EFI has been sitting on the shelf, or a set of fuel injectors have been sitting on the shelf, they're gonna be sticky. Sometimes you have to tap it with a little bitty hammer and an extension just to get them to wake up. But besides that, we're going along. The next step is gonna be to do the steering system. All right, the Bel Air runs. That Edelbrock Pro Flow EFI did an awesome job. I love the Bluetooth connectivity. Now, you know, whenever a project runs, it's downhill to completion.
Yeah, and it's always a great day when it cranks on the first try.
Now, the fuel system that I got from Summit Racing took about 5 or 6 hours to install. You guys want to make sure to take your time. You want no mishaps there, and you want to stay safe.
Absolutely.
Now, next week what we're going to do is install the Flaming River Complete Rack and Pinion Steering System, and we're one step closer to completion.
Sounds good.
Today we're going behind the scenes of one of our sponsors' businesses. NHOU is the company that really advanced the technology and engineering of undercoating oil. In fact, NHOU is the fastest, least expensive way to add safety and value to vehicles, sealing out corrosives and eliminating rust. NHOU is a family business, and every part of that business is still run by the family that founded it over a decade ago. But now that family has grown into hundreds of dealers, resellers, and now NHOU mobile franchises across the country and around the world. And when the family gets together, they celebrate big. Last summer, they hosted the first NHOU annual cookout, and they had it all. Amazing food, the racing teams and their cars from the NHOU sponsors, the NHOU battle bots, team and their bots, live music, and even an award ceremony. NHOU is always giving back.
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. The SC300 gets an upgraded differential from a Toyota Supra MK4 with a limited slip to handle all the added power.
This week, we're going to go ahead and finish up the powertrain on our Lexus by getting the differential done. I got Brian and Edwin from Victory Motorsports here with me again.
So we're going to upgrade to a Supra TT Diff, give it a peace of mind not to break down going down the track.
And it's going to have limited slip, isn't it?
That's it.
There you go.
So this diff is going to be an open diff. This is what comes in the car factory. It's not really recommended to use this diff if you're trying to put any kind of power down to the ground. It's really not safe to run an open diff either because you're going to one-wheel peel. You really want both wheels so you can get as much traction as possible. But we are swapping in a TT 6-speed diff, which is going to be a 220 millimeter ring gear. It's a lot stronger and it'll also be a lot safer and it'll handle the power a lot better.
And you know, a lot of you guys out there think, like he said, you get differential LSD in there, you got better traction, both wheels are spinning. Don't forget, when both wheels spin, that's when the rear end comes out. So you have better traction, but you're also more prone to fishtailing.
Absolutely.
We got a new differential in place, and man, those axles are a lot beefier than the factory ones that came on the SC, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely an upgrade that's worth it. It's not necessarily the best price point for most people because the MK4 TT Diff is so hard to find now, but for the average person, if they can't afford it, it's definitely a really good option.
And what about those bushings?
Those bushings in the future, you want to change them out, prevent it from wheel hopping the diff and breaking it because it will cause the diff to break. We don't want that, so upgrading to the polyurethanes or the solid ones, depending on the cushion that you want.
And we're getting rid of the rubber, what do you call it? The rubber coupler, really, for the Guivo. For the differential, this one's wrong, so I'm gonna have to call Grandis Racing and get the correct one for this. Once I install this, and I can take my measurement, call Dwayne from Driveline and get me a new drive shaft. So we're going to be going in with our Amsoil 7590 because we got synthetic because it is a LSD. This is a very good oil. You guys make sure to check your manufacturer's specs to see what kind of oil you take, and don't forget climate has a big factor in that. So if you're in a colder climate, thinner oil. If you're in a warmer climate, you can use a thicker oil because a thicker oil is going to create drag.
It is close to 2 quarts. I mean, we still have maybe about this much left in there. It's like 1.7, 1.8 quarts. What we just did is we filled it up. And we fill it up until the fluid starts dripping back out, and that's how you know it's full.
And it's going to take a little bit less than a live axle, like an American setup, because you're not filling the tubes up with any fluid. Looks like we're done. If you have no idea what ring and pinion is in something you purchased used, like this one, you take a marker, go on the yoke, straight up, put a mark straight up on the rotor, turn it, have one person look at the rotor, you turn it all the way until you do one full circle on the rotor, and that way you can get an idea of how close you are to your ring and gear ratio. So in this particular application, when you guys are doing a differential R&R, you want to not disturb the suspension because you really don't have to. You saw Brian, Edwin, and I simply remove the hardware on the differential itself, and when we took it down, we just moved the axles out, moved them up, differential came down. But Brian had a great idea when going back in. We put the axles in their place in the knuckles, and then as the differential went up, we went ahead and married the axles to the differential, making it very easy for us to go up in the air. Before we completely installed it, while it was mid-flight, it was easy to get the DeWalt tool in there to go ahead and tighten the bolts for the axle shaft themselves. So we went ahead and put it up. We put new bushings on the top of the differential just because we had them. Car is 30 years old. All right, guys, what do you think? Are we ready for the track yet?
We still got a couple more upgrades to do. We'll be ready.
I think we're getting there. We still need a drive shaft. We still need a couple things, but we're getting there for sure.
Absolutely. Remember, guys, the last 10% takes as long as the first 90%. So don't beat up your shop or your mechanic when he's taking a long time to finalize your project. And Travis soon will be hitting the track and doing some more Nopi racing.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Sam and Wade installed the new carburetor on the 454 big block engine and prepare to fire it up on the stand.
This is the week that we fire up the big block. We've got everything buttoned up. I got Wade William here from Merlin Auto Group to help me. If you remember, he was on season 4 and 5 and helped us with the Hudson carburetor and the distributor. Thank you for coming back on board and helping us out.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So, what do you have planned today? What are we gonna do?
Well, today we have an Edelbrock 700, which is matched to the camshaft and the cylinder head that you described to them. So we're gonna get it fired up, tuned up, and idling and ready to go in the boat.
And he's gonna give you some tips about carburetors and how to tune them, and just some general information. So Edelbrock sent us this 700 CFM carburetor.
Right.
Now, you hear the old phrase, bigger isn't always better. How does one know what size carburetor to put on their engine?
You're gonna wanna call Edelbrock. They're gonna tell you. They're gonna ask you what kind of camshaft you're running, what you're using it for. This is going in a boat. You want a lot of torque. You don't need screaming RPM. 700 is perfect for this thing.
Now this vacuum gauge, very good tool to tune a carburetor and even a fuel injection car.
That is correct. On the carburetor, Edelbrock will have a lot of instructions. You can look it up. It comes with your carburetor to explain to you. You want to set the idle settings with the vacuum gauge.
So what do we do next?
I say we make smoke.
Really? Okay, let's do it.
Nice.
Easy,
15
right?
inches of vacuum, fired right up. Took a little bit of adjusting because we literally just stabbed it in without even looking at anything. We will get the timing light out, we'll get the timing set, we'll do a little bit more tuning on the carburetor. She's gonna be sweet.
Now Wade, will you do me a favor and teach everybody about the choke and how to properly set it?
Certainly. So one of the keys on this one is we have no power hooked up to the choke. This is an electric choke. So over here there is a bimetallic spring that's going to heat up when you give it 12 volts. We don't have it hooked up. When you set the choke, when the engine is cold, you want to crank it around until you see the choke begin to close. So when you have it cold, you're going to want to open the throttle, have it close, and stop right there.
All right, let's do timing.
All right, Sam, if you run the switches, I'll run the throttle, and we're going to see if we can adjust some timing.
Okay.
We're idling at about 860 RPM. We're at 10 degrees, making smoke.
Now you had something very important to say about the idle screws.
So what I always like to do when you get a new carburetor like this is I always tighten the idle screws down and count the turns and see where they're factory set. So quarter, 1, 2, 3, 4. That lets me know where they're set at, and I want to make sure they're the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now once we start it, we've already set the timing. We're happy with that. We've got the idle where we want it. It's about 860, which is great for this engine. Now we're going to start it, check the vacuum, adjust those until we get the best vacuum. So it took about a quarter of a turn on both of them to get the maximum vacuum. We're at about 15 inches, which is great for your boat. You're gonna love this thing. I can't wait to ride in it.
Well, that turned out all right. Well worth the hours that we put into it. You guys check out Wade from Merlin Auto Group, locally here in Atlanta, Georgia. What kind of vehicles do you work on?
Well, I primarily am a Ferrari technician, but at Merlin Auto Group, we'll work on anything that comes in. We have hot rods, we have Lamborghinis, but me personally, I'll work on hot rods and Ferraris mainly.
Well, I hope you guys learned something. I had a good time having Wade come on board and making the big block run. You guys check him out, Merlin Auto Group, Atlanta, Georgia.
Be sure to check out Sam's Garage on these other media platforms. Send us questions and feedback to info@samsgaragetv.com. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sam's Garage. Sam and Doug continue tackling the great race. The Bel Air now has a completed fuel system. The SC300 received an upgraded differential. and Sam's 454 Big Block has come to life.